medical school enthusiasts. I hope you are well. The time has come again to provide an update on my legal situation, and luckily this time I do actually have something to talk about, apart from strange ex-Soviet style commissions. I'm going to start this video like I normally do and kind of show you where I'm at on my travels. I'm still heading towards Italy. I've been studying for the IMAT exam. I'm currently scoring out on average about a 60, although my last one I got 45, which has kind of knocked my confidence. I have parasol, so I'm just heading to the beach. I'm in a place called Golubac in Serbia, which is a very pretty place. There's just a beach in the distance over there. And probably what they're more famous for is, I don't know if you can see in the distance, there's a fortress built into the rocks. Very Lord of the Rings style-y. So I'm happy to report that the path to the European courts is now open. As you know, I received a border fine. I also received a border ban, which I wasn't aware of. So you have 10 days to appeal the decision, which I did. I got my appeal in within the 10 days, which should have halted any kind of decision on their part. But of course it didn't. This is Ukraine. They don't behave logically or reasonably. So because I appealed and the 10 days passed, they instantly gave me a 3-year border ban. That of course means I cannot enter the country and defend myself in any capacity against any of the court cases that are currently outstanding. Now, the court case went ahead. The judge decided that border control basically can do whatever they want, and the active court order that I had to stay within the country is irrelevant, despite the fact that that's against the law, and an active court order applies to every state, institution and entity. The judge basically tried to argue that I should have had permission from Migration Service to stay, despite that court order. Now, what they didn't know, and of course because I wasn't allowed to attend the court hearing because I'm banned from the country, I did actually contact the State Migration Service, both in person and via email, to try and get that permission, which they actively refused because they said I have a court order which is sufficient to allow me to stay in the country. So of course I've appealed that decision, but the good news is, because I've now been banned from the country, there is no equality of arms, there's no effective remedy. I can now argue to the European courts that justice is illusionary, which it is in Ukraine. So I'll spend a moment explaining how Ukrainian nonsense logic works and how they cherry pick what laws they believe or not. So I think they call it being siloed. So the migration doesn't speak to customs, customs doesn't speak to border control, nobody speaks to each other, and when it comes to a judgment from a court, people can interpret that however they like, apparently. Within the state, of course. The state protects the state. Just been visited by a little dog. Of course, in my appeal I also mentioned the fact that the border ban came during raising the appeal within the 10-day window, so how they can ban you from a country when you are actively protesting. So once again, I think what is quite clear is Ukraine have a policy of shoot first, destroy first, and then let the individual mop it up. What I'm also particularly disturbed at is the fact that I got a lawyer involved, and she gave me the advice that I can leave the country and return to the country. She obviously quit as soon as I got banned from the country. So if a lawyer doesn't know their processes, a qualified lawyer, how was an individual meant to know? Not that I did this by myself anyway, but of course I've represented myself since leaving the country, which has been really, really difficult. But yeah, it's just complete nonsense. It's the state protecting the state. It's what we call systemic corruption. And like I've said before, the Ukrainian people are lovely, but if you look at what's actually happening within their own government, I would be very dubious to believe what's going on in the media. They're not nice people, they're not good people. But on a different note, so my main case, which was for illegal expulsion, illegal fees, that has been in the Court of Appeal. I lost that. The judge agreed with the lower court. So they're ignoring the Ministry of Health letter. They're ignoring the fact that I was attempting to mediate. And once again, they've believed the university's word and so-called internal memos over the physical emails, letters. But once again, the state protects the state. Now, my lawyer is adamant that I have to take that to the Supreme Court before I go to ECHR. He seems to really have a difficult problem understanding what homeless and stranded abroad means, and he seems to think that I can absolutely actively participate in my court cases. He seems to think I can attend by video call, but I've already been denied translators multiple times. Everything's just getting rubber stamped, and of course we have the forgery looming. Surprise, surprise, the police haven't, you know, since they downgraded me from a victim to a witness, I've not heard anything about the forgery case. So yeah, like I said, I don't think it's a wild thing to say that this is systemic corruption. So once again, is it safe to study medicine in Ukraine? But yeah, I thought I'd share this update with you. Wish me luck with the European Court's application, and also with my current study plan. I'm 4 weeks into my 6-week study plan, which I hope to complete whilst in Serbia, and then I'll spend a week putting together all the evidence. I've already got about 60 documents of evidence across the 5 or 6 cases that, in fact it's 6 cases now, that I'm currently fighting against the state of Ukraine, because obviously I'm going to look at it holistically with the 13 human rights breaches. The thing is, with Ukraine, they like to separate everything out, so one thing doesn't affect another, and I suppose when you break it all down from a Ukraine point of view, the forgery doesn't affect the other cases, and blah blah blah. It's an absolute joke. But like I said, the state protects the state. So yeah, wish me well with all of that. I'm going to try to keep my focus on my future, and of course the ECHR can take 2 to 5 years. But you know, I'm going to spend a lot of time putting all those documents together at the end of this month and submit my formal application. But hope you enjoyed part 4, and I'll return in another 3 or 4 weeks with part 5. I have made it to the beach. It's very sombering to end a video on systemic corruption and of course the fraud with the forged contract. So I will say that my thoughts and prayers are with the many men in Ukraine who are putting their lives on the line for this kind of government. A lot of them get drafted, they have to pay for their own equipment, so God knows what happens to that charity money that keeps getting pumped into that country. I know when I was leaving, they were building a brand new church and they'd invested quite a lot of money on local parks. So yeah, my thoughts and prayers go for them. A lot of them have lost their wives, their girlfriends. They have to stay in Ukraine because of the drafting list, and a lot of women have taken the opportunity to leave the country, rightly or wrongly. So I know, for example, there was a teacher who lost his wife and she's gone to Canada. So yeah, I will end on that note that my thoughts and prayers are with the men of Ukraine.